Coming in hot from Arizona, this is Trevor
and Troy Howard.
And you're on So Tell Us Time. You can have everything you want in your business. Sometimes you just need a little help.
Every business owner would love to charge more for their services, but sometimes you can sacrifice long-term loyalty for a short-term profit.
Creating the right rituals is key to your business having success.
Are you tired of competing with your competitors? Guess what? You don't have to compete if you create.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of So Tell Us Time. We are excited to be here with you today. In fact, let's just start with apologies. Last week, I had just gotten back from the hospital, and then we were running and doing stuff. And anyways, it just slipped Troy and I's mind completely. And we missed last week's episode. So we do apologize for that. We love coming to you guys every single week. It's just been a little crazy. I don't know how the rest of you feel out there, but boy, Troy and I are just running 1,000 miles an hour. It is like just literally daily. If I didn't have my calendar all laid out, I would miss 100 things a day. So I'm excited. I was just telling Troy, I'm like, actually after summer, it slows down just a little bit. And then in the end of the year, we have a few more events. And so I'm excited for after summer. It's going to be great. So again, apologies for last week. We totally missed it and totally spaced it. But we're back. And today we're talking about lead journey, which is awesome because that's what we all need. We all ultimately want more business, and how we get more business is by having more leads and then converting those leads. So last week on the podcast, or 2 weeks ago, I guess I should say, on the podcast, we talked about the importance of having a CRM and how effective it can be to growing your business. This week, we're going to talk about that same CRM and how you can utilize it to manage your leads through the journey until they close. And we had 2 weeks ago, we had messages about the CRM podcast. We had a lot of people who were excited about that. We got messages about when I gave the little teaser of we've got something coming, and I'm excited about that. I think we'll talk just a little bit more about that today as well. So we wanted to continue this on because we want you to realize that a CRM, a good CRM, is going to do that lead management for you all the way through the process of either closing the deal or not closing the deal. We call that either we won or we lost on that customer. So, all right, Troy, let's jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to take it all away.
All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is basically creating this leads pipeline, right? So in your CRM, you should have the ability, or if you have a really good CRM, you should have the ability to kind of create a leads pipeline. And you can imagine this lead comes in the door, and then we're going to move it, if you will, kind of like through these different rooms, or our pipeline. And every single time we go into a new room, something new is going to happen, right? And this is kind of the journey that your lead takes until, like Trevor said, you either win the sale or, you lose it and it's gone forever, right? Or at least for a while. So, basically a leads pipeline is just a series of stages that you're going to take the lead through. Now, let's talk about some examples, because the best way to understand it is just to kind of get some examples of what that means. So I kind of put together a simple pipeline that most businesses could utilize to take their leads through until they close them. And so we're going to have different stages in this pipeline. So the first stage, and the way I want you to visualize this, especially for those that are just listening to the podcast, I want you to kind of visualize you've got this whiteboard, and we're going to have these boxes, and they're going to go across the top of this whiteboard, right? And these are basically going to be like columns under these boxes. And then you're going to be moving your leads from, left to right as they go through these stages. So the first stage...
Let me jump in real quick to just give another visual or a real life example. We're taking on a client right now that they have manila folders. And it's like when a lead comes in, it goes into this manila folder. And then when it turns from a lead into a job, it goes into the next manila folder. And when it goes into production, it goes to the next manila folder. And then when it goes into contact the customer, it goes in. So it's almost like that. Imagine that you have this come in, and then you're putting it in folder 1, And once folder 1's tasks are done, it goes to folder 2, folder 3, folder 4, right? Until you get to the stage where you're actually paid and it's a job, right?
Yep, exactly.
So
That's perfect.
and I should say we're taking on a new client right now that we're taking him from being totally offline with his sales process, and we're putting it online in a CRM like this is what we're talking about.
Yep, exactly. So we're going to take our first stage and we're just going to call our first stage new lead, right? So a new lead comes in the door. It could be from a phone call, from a web form on our website, from one of our Google ads. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. That lead comes in, right? And we have this new lead. Now we need to do something with that lead, right? So the next stage is we're going to call a hot lead. So it's not just a lead that's come in. Maybe we've had some communication with them. So now it's a hot lead, right? And we want to focus on those a little bit more than the ones that are cold. And then our next stage will be call 1, meaning let's say the lead comes in and they don't reach out to us, so we're going to call them. And then we have call 2, because we all know that you can't just make one phone call to a lead and expect to close the deal right away. There's going to be multiple calls. So we might have a call 2, then we might have a final touch point of maybe like we've called them several times and we haven't quite, we weren't able to close the deal with them. So we kind of reach out that last time of like, hey, look, we want to work with you. And we'll kind of go into some more detail about these.
Right.
And then you have like, maybe you give a quote or an estimate. So you say, hey, here's my quote delivered. I've delivered that quote to the customer. Right. And now a lot of times with businesses, that's kind of where they stop. They're like, I gave them the quote. Now I'm just going to wait for them to call me back. And, they have to follow up with me in order to get scheduled. So no, we're going to have a next stage, which is quote follow up. So we've given them a quote. Now we're following up with them. Then we're going to have another stage of service scheduled, where they've agreed to our quote. We've got a date scheduled, booked with them. And then closed would be finally once everything's done and we're collecting our money from them, right? So that's a pretty good pipeline. Yeah. And that's probably very similar to the pipeline that, happens in your business, right?
Hopefully.
We all wish that a lead would come in.
That's 9 stages, right? That's 9 stages. So people think about that. And how many touch points were within those 9 stages? I think like 6 or 7, Yeah. And so think about that in your business. Do you have for every lead, do you have a 9-stage process to help walk this customer to closing where you have 6 to 7 touch points with the customer? And if the answer is no, then you're missing out on business.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of go through, I'm going to kind of give you some examples of what would happen in each one of those stages, right? So what happens in these stages? For the new lead stage, this is what we would suggest right off the bat. The minute a new lead comes in the door, immediately there should be a text message and an email going out to them, thanking them for, opting into the form, whatever it is they did, right? However they gave you their information, whether it's claiming a special offer, opting in for an estimate, whatever that might be. It might just be a contact us form on your website, but you're going to immediately thank them, right? Communicate with them via SMS and email. And then you're going to ask them to take the next step, which would most likely be, hey, let's, schedule a call. Yep. Or let's book an appointment, right? So that way, the minute they reach out to you, you're instantly reaching back to them to engage them to get to the next stage, right? And then let's say, they become a hot lead when they responded to your text message or your email. So now you're moving them over. Like I have my leads over here, but it's like, ooh, this guy responded. I'm going to move him up a little bit because he is hot and I want to close him quickly versus the people who haven't responded to my emails or text messages yet. And then you're going to say, okay, those people who haven't responded, now it's time for me to give them a call. Right. And you determine how long that is in between, but I would suggest make it very quick, right? I'm going to give them a call. So you're going to reach out, pick up the phone, you're going to call them, and hopefully they answer. If they don't answer, right, you're going to leave them a voicemail, and you're going to say, and then you're going to send them a text message and an email that says, hey, look, unfortunately, I tried calling you, I wasn't able to reach you. I'd love to book that appointment with you, or I'd love to schedule a service, blah, 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 blah. Right? So you've given them a voicemail, a text message, and an email, right? And to follow up with them. And then hopefully at this point, they're going to respond back to you. But if they don't, you're going to move them into the next stage, which is call number 2, which means you're picking up that phone again. It might be 24 hours later. and reaching out to them. And again, if they don't answer the phone, what are you going to do? You're going to leave that voicemail. You're going to follow up with a text message and email, letting them know again that you've reached out, right? And you're moving them through the stage. So you're moving them along this path, and now you know where they're at. It's not just this huge pile of leads, and you have no idea what you've done with each one of these people. You have this path that they're going down, and you know exactly where you are. So, and then again, you might have a final touch point with them after call 2, where you reach out one more time, make that third phone call, and then send them a text message and email and say, hey, you know, I've reached out several times. I don't want to bother you. This is the last time I'm going to reach out. But if you'd like to schedule, here's a link to book on my calendar, or here's a link to get an estimate, whatever you want to do. And you let them know. Yeah.
Let me jump in there and say, so if you think about this, that sounds like maybe a lot to some of my clients here that aren't doing this through CRM where there's automation done. But actually, if you pay attention to what happened there, you have texted them and emailed them at least 3 times at this point, but that was automated. All you've done manually is pick up the phone and call them at this point 3 times as well. So you've actually communicated with them 9 times via call, text, and email at this point. But you've only had to pick up the phone 3 times. Which is awesome. Yes. Because again, we know it takes at least usually 6 to 7 points of touch to get them to, become a customer or engage, right?
Exactly. And that's the whole point that Trevor just said and made perfectly, which is you've only had to do 3 touches yourself, but they've been touched 9 times already. And that's the key to closing more sales.
Yes.
Right? So now some of those, hopefully the majority of those, you're moving on into the stages where you're actually closing the deal. So you're going to move people into that quote delivered, meaning, hey, I've sent you that quote, but then you got to have that next stage, which is that quote follow-up. So maybe it's 1 day later where you're sending out an SMS and an email to them saying, hey, I just wanted to check in and see if you had any questions about your quote.
Yep.
Right? So you're reaching back out to them. They're going, oh, wow, they're proactive. And they're following up with me, which makes them want to respond back to you. Now, one of the reasons why this is so important is because there's a good chance that you're not the only business that they're talking to that provides this service. So there's a very good chance, and I've talked about it on podcasts before, where we had a renovation done on one of our rental properties, and we got quotes from 5 different people, and not a single one of them followed up with us. And we're like, what the heck? If just one of them would have followed up, that would have been the person I picked. We ended up going with someone totally different because none of them, even though they sent over a $20,000 or $30,000 quote, called me, texted me, or sent me an email saying, hey, do you have any questions?
Well, and actually it was that it wasn't the initial round of people, but it was that one that you ended up going with that did get you a quote and then did follow up. Right?
Yeah.
And that's who you ended up going with. It was the guy that followed up.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why you want to have that follow-up to your quote or estimate or whatever it is, right? And then hopefully you're going to schedule that service. So you're going to have hopefully text message and email reminders of that appointment that's coming up so that they remember and you don't waste time showing up and they're not there. And then, of course, you have your close, which is your one, and you're going to celebrate that sale that you just got from them. And then hopefully you're going to drop them into some sort of nurture campaign so that you can do business with them again in the future. Like, let's say you're a carpet cleaner. You want to reach out to them 6 months later to clean their carpets again, right? Exactly. So you're not just done at that point. They move into another stage, which is the 6-month follow-up. So that's a really good idea of how a sales or a lead pipeline works. And you can see all the communication and contact that goes through that, but you can also see how it's going to help you organize. I've got 2 people in my stage 1. I've got 5 hot leads. I've got, 2 people that I need to call back. I've got, 5 quotes that I've delivered that I need to follow up on today, right? So it helps you manage what you need to do with every single one of those leads, which means you close more sales.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about what we call speed to lead. This is really, really important. especially if you're in an industry where people are going to get quotes from several different other businesses and you're competing. This is going to change your life if you pay attention to this. So they did some studies on this, and I love this. They said that one of these studies showed that you are 100 times more likely to connect with a lead in the first 5 minutes than if you wait anything after that.
Wow.
So if a lead comes in the door and you reach out to them in the first 5 minutes, you're 100 times more likely to actually connect and communicate with that person.
Wow.
So I want you to think about that. How many times have you had a lead come in and you don't get to it for a couple of hours and you're like, this was a crap lead. They didn't even answer the phone.
Yeah, or the next day.
Yeah, or the next day. And you're like, oh, garbage, right? Is it because it's garbage, or is it because it took you a day to get to them, right? Exactly. And they've already talked to 3 of your competitors and made a decision to go with one of them. So 100 times more likely if you do it connect with them in the first 5 minutes. This is another great one. You're 21 times more likely to convert a lead into an opportunity if you respond to them in the first 5 minutes.
Wow.
So 21 more times likely to actually move them into a stage where it's like you have the opportunity to close a sale with them just by reaching out to them in that first 5 minutes. And this one I loved as well. They found that 78% of consumers buy from the company that responds first.
Wow.
So think about that. If they're getting quotes from 3 different people, if you are always the first person to respond, your 78% of consumers are going to buy from you over the competitor because you got back to them fast, right? And this will make you feel really good about your competitors. Only 7% of companies respond to leads in the first 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
So 93% of the people are dropping the ball, not reaching out in the first 5 minutes, which means if you are reaching out, you are going to stand out way above your competitors and people are going to choose you. So that's why it's so important to have this pipeline, this lead pipeline, and this automation in place so that you can get to people really, really fast without you actually having to get to people, right? Doing the actual work.
Going back, Troy, to your campaign that you just talked about and visually created for them in their minds. And if anybody wants this, by the way, we can actually give you this outline. We'll be happy to reach out to us on social media, email us, whatever you want. We will send you this outline so that you can actually go back and visually see this. Sometimes it just helps to see it. But if you think about that, it was 12 times that this person was touched, but you only did 3 physical actions on your own, which is awesome. And remember, the CRM with automation gave you those tasks as well to do. So it wasn't like you had to remember. You were actually getting a task that you then checked off once you made that phone call. So after your 3 phone calls, you've checked off your tasks, but the system is still working for you at that point, which is pretty amazing.
Yep, exactly. So, Trevor, should we go on to the kind of little sneak peek, the little bit of information?
Yeah, that sneak peek. I already had people. We've had people reaching out to us since 2 weeks ago when we gave the little sneak peek that something's coming that we're super excited about. We'll give you just a little bit more. We're not going to give it all away yet, but this is my favorite part, by the way.
Yeah. So we call this First 5. This is going to be called our First 5, and what we're talking about is the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be awesome if in the first 5 minutes that a lead came into your business, that person, that lead, immediately received a text message from you, an email from you, and wouldn't it be awesome if you actually got a phone call to your phone with, that basically was connecting you to that lead? So imagine you get a phone call and it says, hey, you've got a new lead, press 1 to talk to them. And you just press 1 and all of a sudden you're talking to the lead that just opted in through whatever special offer or whatever it is. And then let's just say they're not available. Wouldn't it be awesome if you didn't have to spend your time leaving voicemails for them, if they just all of a sudden had a voicemail show up on their phone from you thanking them for opting in and telling them what the next step is. So imagine if all of that happened in the first 5 minutes every single time someone opted in, as a lead to your business.
And think about this for our people who have like a receptionist or salespeople or whatever. So in the first 5 minutes, a lead comes in and bam, they get a text message from you. They get an email from you. Your phone or your salesperson or your front desk gal or guy, their phone rings and it says, hey, you have a lead from John, and press 1 and it calls John. So now it's not like your person is having to get a form and then go look at the form and then call John. It's actually the system's actually calling you and saying, just press 1, we'll connect you with John. And then if John doesn't answer the phone, you just hang up and the system automatically sends them what's called a ringless voicemail. So it's a pre-recorded voicemail that you've already made, and it goes straight to their voicemail. It doesn't ring them again. It doesn't call them again. It just goes straight into their voicemail. So you click 1, it calls them, John doesn't answer, you hang up, and bam, John has a voicemail from you or from your staff. I mean, phenomenal. It's so awesome. That is literally like, that's you're getting to them, you're touching them 4 times in the first 5 minutes, which is amazing.
Yep, exactly. So I want you to just think about how awesome, how many more jobs you could close if that was happening every single time. And I just want you to understand how important this is, because like we have an entire sales team, right? We have an entire sales team that is doing sales for us every single day, but they need automation too, because they're doing things, they're making phone calls, they're doing all this stuff. So even if they're busy, our people that are opting into our stuff are getting this kind of an experience. So it doesn't matter whether you have a huge sales team. It doesn't matter if it's just you and you're wearing all the hats. This type of automation will put you in the top 10%, the top 7% of all businesses out there getting back to people in the first 5 minutes.
Amazing. I'm so excited.
All right,
so,
you got anything else?
The first 5 is something we're bringing out. It's going to be so awesome. This is going to be great. Trust me, like crazy. Just closing. And see, this is the thing. We already, again, everything we talk about is stuff we're utilizing, right? So we've been doing this for years. Back when we were doing the Post Place, which is a content marketing system that we built proprietary, we would have it where we called the person immediately, and sometimes they'd be like, I'm still on your website. That's incredible. I can't believe you're already calling me. And so we were able to connect with them and catch them in the heat of the moment when we are top of the mind awareness. And that's what this is all about. If you're a pest control person and someone's looking for pest control in your area, their area, top of the mind. If they're still on your website, or if they literally just got off your website, they are still thinking about you. Whether that's pest control, home services, pool cleaning, home inspectors, lawn care guys, any business. Child care centers. Yeah, anything. Hospitals. It doesn't matter. Anything. Capturing that person when you are still top of the mind there's nothing better than that. There's nothing more powerful than that. So that will 100% increase the amount of sales you get every single month. That's for sure.
All right. Anything you want to add, Trevor, before we go to the homework?
Let's jump right in. I'm excited. I think that was perfect. Decide on the stages your leads pipeline for your leads pipeline and see how you can improve them. So you need to figure out, do you have any sort of pipeline now? Do you have any sort of campaign? This is basically kind of what this is. This is a campaign, a sales campaign that walks people through utilizing your CRM or some sort of campaign, leads campaign system. Do you have that first? And if you don't, then you need one. And second, what stages do you need in your campaign to close people and get to people? I would say most importantly, in the first 5 to 10 minutes, 5 minutes, obviously. The numbers show 5. So beyond 5, it just goes down. The numbers go down from there. So how do you get to people in the first 5 minutes, which I think is going to blow a lot of people's minds, because I think a lot of people go, well, I have a pretty good lead generation and I've got a pretty good follow-up system, and we get back to people within 24 hours and we have a pretty good close rate. Well, let me tell you, the stats don't lie. You will get 21 more times the business, converting them from a lead to an opportunity just by getting to them in the first 5 minutes, right? Which is phenomenal. So, all right, guys. Troy, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Perfect. Okay, we love you. We appreciate you. We really appreciate your patience with us. We are super sorry that we have got scatterbrained and missed a couple of weeks here and there. Obviously, one time I was in the hospital, but now I'm back, and we really want to be on top of it for you guys as well. So we love you. We appreciate you. Share, like, comment, hit us up if you want to get this outline so that you can kind of visually see this in your mind of like, how do I set up some stages? That's great. If you don't have a CRM that does lead management for you, reach out to us. We got something amazing coming and you're really going to love it. So, all right, guys, thank you. We appreciate you. And we will catch you guys on the next episode of So Tell Us Time.